Hey, it's Mrs. D, and I make videos about something students hate, doing research. I used to be one of those students and routinely phoned it in, until I had to teach it. So I set out on a quest, find a way to make doing academic research and writing research papers as painless as possible. I focus solely on MLA format and citations, so if you're looking for Chicago or APA style, I'm not going to be helpful. Maybe one day, but today's not looking so hot and tomorrow's not promising either. So, if you're ready, let's go on an MLA journey in research. Today's part of the journey. Hi, I'm Mrs. D, and this is Citing Your Sources. Before I dive into what and how to cite, I have a question for you. Did you know there are things that you don't have to cite? Seriously, the 4 common sources you do not need to cite are common knowledge. This includes information widely available in reference works, such as basic bibliographical facts about prominent persons and the dates and circumstances of major historical events. When the facts are in dispute, however, or when your reader may want more information about your topic, it's a good practice to document the source of the material you borrow. Passing mentions. If you state that your favorite graphic narrative is Fun Home, you have not quoted from or paraphrased the book, referred to any aspect of it specifically, or used it to advance an idea. You have simply stated that the book exists and give an opinion about it. This is a passing mention. It does not require a source citation. Allusions. When you are making an allusion for rhetorical effect, that is, making an indirect or partial reference to a well-known passage that serves as a cultural touchstone, you usually do not need to cite a source. An example is the female protagonist's to be or not to be moment came when she contemplated the difficult journey ahead. You do not need to cite that. Epigraphs. This is a short quotation at the beginning of a work that establishes its theme or mood and should be used sparingly. Primarily ornamental, epigraphs are not discussed subsequently in the text. Do not place an epigraph in quotation marks. On the line below the epigraph, generally provide only the author and title of the work the epigraph comes from. No further documentation is needed. The work is not included in the Works Cited list. But here is where I am going to cite where this information came from. I gleaned this information from the 8th edition of the MLA Handbook, pages 147 and 148. On to Intext citations. Intext citations are little snippets of info from your source cited in a line of text that will direct your reader to your Works Cited page for the full citation. Think of them as the breadcrumbs trail your reader can follow from your paper back to your sources. Typically, the citation includes 1 or 2 pieces of information, a title or author, and a page number. All of this information is in parentheses. That's really all there is in simple terms. However, something students don't always take into account, I know I didn't, is that quote sandwich thing I mentioned a few videos ago. The part students ignore or fumble with is a lead-in phrase or statement, the good old according to standby folks default to while writing. I briefly mentioned they say I say in a prior video. This book is amazing. I am not paid to praise it, I'm simply a fan. What I like about it is it gives students who infrequently write research papers these fantastic templates to simply plug in some basic info from their sources and make great use of their sources without the headache of either knowing how to integrate them or worse, integrate them and unintentionally plagiarize the sources. That really scary P word will be dealt with in another video. In-text citations are just that, giving props to the source you use in the body of your paper. It's as simple as according to X blah 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 blah, and then some stuff in parentheses. It's that quote sandwich stuff. That's an oversimplification of things. In-text citations are one voice in a 2-part harmony that help your reader discern your voice from others and give them a bit of info to help them go back to your source. Let's play with some common examples, shall we? Now on to Works Cited lists. A Works Cited list is all of the sources you included in your paper. A big question students have asked me is, well, I consulted this book but ultimately didn't use anything from it. Do I still cite it? Simply, nope. Unless you included information from it, it doesn't need to be on the list. It's baked right into the title, Works Cited. It's not Works Consulted or Works Browsed. The list follows a predictable pattern, and for an average 8 to 10 page paper, you'll probably have 5 to 6 sources. It should be varied in type. My preference for students is physical had to find it on a library shelf sources outnumber the I've used the printer in the library sources 2 to 1, but you do you, or whatever your instructor wants. So, let's play with a sample list. Alright, so now we're going to tackle the Works Cited page. Now there are 3 basic elements for each entry in your Works Cited page: the author, the title, and the publication information. So let's look at the author first. When you are listing the author, you will use the reverse name format. So that means you'll have the last name followed by the first name. And if the author has a middle initial, it will come after the first name. If you have 2 authors, the first author listed will get the last name, first name treatment, and then the second author, it will be listed in first name, last name format. If there are more than 3 authors, it will be similar to your Intext citation. So you'll have the first author listed, last name, first name, followed by the Latin phrase et al., meaning and others. For organizations, you will drop all articles, a, and the, and you will not use reverse form. So the next information will be the title. This will be either the book you sourced, the magazine, the journal, the website, something that will give your reader something to look for when they go to your source. So if you are citing from a journal, for instance, this will be our example, you will put the title of your article first after the author. And titles always go in quotation marks. And you'll use the full title. So if it's a long rambling title, then quietly curse the author who came up with it. Next, you will use the source you got it from. So if it's the New England Journal of Medicine, that comes next, and that will be in italics. So books, magazines, and journals will get italics for their formatting. If there's any edition numbers or volume numbers, those come next, and they will always go after the source. Next will be the publisher. So in this case, you'll use all original punctuation, a place of publication if provided, and then the date of publication. So that could be the full date in day, abbreviated month, year format, just the year if only that is provided, or the season, like the spring 2009 edition, which happens a lot of times with multi-volume or seasonal publications. So here, for instance, I'm going to show you an example of a journal article that is being included in a Works Cited. So here you have the author, last name and then first name, the title of the source, the title of the container, so that's your journal, your book, and so forth, the number, which is your volume and issue number, the publication date, and its location. Now the location can be, in this case, it's page numbers, but if you're working with a web source, it could be a shortened form of the URL, or where you found it. And as always, please consult the most recent edition of the MLA handbook for the type of source that you're using. I'm giving the very, very brief overview here, so don't feel like what I'm saying is applicable to every single instance. And don't worry if you some of your sources don't have the information that you're looking for. You just omit that piece and move on to the next one. One little tip about formatting your Works Cited page: everything will be alphabetical by the first element. So it'll either be by author or the title information, like either the title of like a book or an article. You always go by the first information provided. If you are citing source by 2 sources, but it's the same author, you'll cite the first source and you'll alphabetize then by the title. So you'll have author, title, and the rest of it. And then your next Works Cited entry, thank you, phone, that was helpful. Then your next Works cited entry will have dashes to signify to your reader that the source has the same author, but it's a different source. And then the next piece of formatting advice I have to give is each source in your Works Cited, or each entry, is going to have a hanging indent. And that is something that is easily tweakable in Word. I'm not going to go over it here in any kind of depth at all, but this hanging indent, so that way you can quickly find by author, title, and so forth as you're scanning through the list. A note about citation machines and how to cite features on websites. These were hot tickets when I was teaching and are no doubt still hot commodities. Word even has a built-in citation creator. These are great. They're amazing. But they're fallible. They require you to put faith in their coders that they are following the most recent guidelines for the style of citation you're doing and that they got it right. But I have the best way to make sure those citation machines are spitting out correct citations. You ready? You double check it against your style guide. Seriously, it's that simple. Then why bother using those machines? Why not just pattern after what's in the style guide? Truly, that's something only you can answer. I like the convenience of the citation machines. They're typical plug and play. In my experience, the only thing I had to do as a writer was make the minor format adjustments. Hanging indents, anyone? My best advice is to proceed with a sharp eye. In my next video, I'll get into that awkward topic of plagiarism. Until then, happy researching! Thanks for joining me on this journey in MLA research. If you have any questions, please leave something in the comments, send me an email at englishresearchmla@gmail.com, or send a tweet to @MLA Research Help. Like, retweet, share, and cite your sources.